I estimated the yacht at 3 stories high, not including the whole storage. I tried to guess the length, and it seemed to be somewhere around 400 feet. That puts it on the large end for yachts, but I had seen much bigger online before the collapse. Also, I'm recalling those huge, horrifying budget cruise liners being around 1,000 feet, so in that regard, this luxury yacht looked very proportionate and tasteful size-wise. The hull would no doubt be full-sized, and of course the roof. I would try to check out the roof, the top deck later if there was one. I imagine that it was an open top floor. I think I'd seen at this sharp angle the faint outline of a railing up there. I would need to secure this whole ship, of course, to make sure it was safe for everyone to come on board. As I finished coming around to the port side, I look up at the beautiful writing again. Anastasia. It said in cursive. It had an elegance to it that was very regal and defiant. I think it was the last to be made in its product line, so it had every last upgrade they could possibly fit, as well as every lesson learned. Now, on the starboard side, I went under the anchor and noted that it had dragged out quite a way. That told me that the ship had been anchored here for quite a while. I finally saw how I could dock. The ship had a built-in boat ramp of sorts, which I thought was very cool. I finished my sweep of the starboard side of the ship and circled back around to the boarding ramp. There was even more rust on this side of the ship, having been exposed to the brunt of the elements. Seeing no major damage, though, told me it was as safe as I could possibly discern from the water. I would need to board to try to notice any further damage. I let off on the throttle and gently coasted to the built-in boat ramp that the Anastasia had. I tied one side of the rope off to my Zodiac using a cleat hitch knot. First, I wrapped a line under the cleat, which looked like a bit of a T. I made sure that the rope went under the horn, the pointy part, and thus under the back far side first. This is to make sure that when the rope comes up and around, it's perpendicular to the boat. This makes sure if the boat tries to pull away and the rope is immediately pulling against the base, this is what gives the knot its strength. I made sure to keep the rope less than a 90-degree angle to where the boat was going to be, so nothing came undone. Then I turned the rope 3/4 of the way around the base of the cleat, being careful to not cross over the line that is going to attach to the ship's receiving post. Then I lifted the rope over the cleat, crossing the top, and wrapped through it under the horn. At this point, the knot begins to look like a figure 8. Then I pulled the rope over the top of the opposite cleat horn, which crossed the line I just made. This was the tricky part, and I had to make a loop with the rope so that the knot wouldn't go all crazy on me later when it came time to undo it. So I made a final half twist with the rope counterclockwise to make a loop and put that loop around the horn and pulled it tight. This made a very nice and neat figure 8 pattern that could be easily undone later, but that would hold on to the bow tight in almost all circumstances. I then completed the knot as the wave's momentum bumped the Zodiac against the boat. It was like an animal bumping its nose up against another animal to smell it, to become familiar for the first time, to see if they wanted to be friends. The Zodiac I was in bumped into the Anastasia several times, and then rested to one side comfortably, pulling the line tight on my cleat hitch, not like it was supposed to. I tossed the other end of the line to the ship in an arc so it would lock back around on the ship's cleat. I caught it when it came back swinging around, albeit clumsily, and I held on tight. I felt like it would be appropriate to say something, so I looked around one more time and saw nobody. I waited another moment and then said with authority, "Ahoy, Anastasia! Requesting permission to come aboard." There was no response, just the waves, not even seagulls. I announced one more time, "Coming aboard." I tossed my backpack off as I had a million times, except instead of onto a chair or into a box, as so many other times, this time I was tossing my bag onto a ship. With a mighty toss, my 20-pound or so bag sailed up the stairs with a thump, landed with finality. Once I got that extra weight off me, I was concerned it could throw off my balance. I grabbed a hold of a rung that was on the side of the Anastasia and pulled myself close enough to grab the other rung. Then I could safely pull myself aboard onto the ship. There were a few stairs to get up to deck level that I used as cover. With my SWAT AR at the ready, I swept the deck a few times at eye level and saw no threats. I only paused for a moment, as much at the ready as I could be, with the rope sharing space with my foregrip at my left hand. I scanned for threats and saw none. Now that I had a wider and closer view, I could hear nothing but the melody of the waves. The Zodiac gave me a tug, as if to say, "Hi, don't forget about me, please." I let my AR hang back down in front to attend to secure my Zodiac. Didn't want to have it on my back, lean over, and crack myself on the back of the head like last time. I looked back for a second just to make sure my backpack was okay, and it was just fine where it was, resting on the deck. I repeated the process for the cleat hitch knot on the Anastasia side. Remember which way the two had nuzzled up on each other? Now they looked like animals that had snuggled in close to stay warm. Looks like they had gotten acquainted already and were becoming good friends. With my knot completed, it was time to go secure the ship, then find a place to rest for the night. Then I would come up with a plan for when the rest of the guys came in the morning. Now that I was done leaning over and being next to the freezing cold hundreds of feet of water, I was ready to put my backpack on. I went instead far away from the side. Made sure there was railings and lots of floor space between me and the water, and made sure all my pockets were still closed, and they were. Then I swung my backpack back on, and I was ready to go. Chapter 5. Clearing the yacht's exterior. First floor outside, evening, day 1. I checked my comm volume by twisting the knob off and then twisting it on. I knew this motion by heart, since I'd done it hundreds of times, checking volume in the past. Counterclockwise, then clockwise again. It started its automated talking back to me down the list of programs and settings, so I knew that everything was fine. I had to do this because sometimes the volume would get slowly rolled to be too quiet to hear. I turned it up just a little bit more to make sure I'd be able to hear clearly, and away I went. The sun wouldn't set for a few more hours, so I still had ambient light. The sun was setting in the west, like it always did, obviously. That put the sun low in the horizon. There were deep shadows cast through the open interior of this part of the ship. I scanned from left to right, hugging corners where needed to, tapping my light if I needed to see into the shadowy corners. On the deck of the ship, there were a few closed cabinets and closets. I checked every single one. Everything was stowed tightly on deck. The furniture had long since been put away, and it seemed as if no events had happened on this floor for a while. I checked all the doors, and they were locked. These were fairly sturdy doors, as this floor was the closest to sea level, and it was feasible some water could get here in heavy seas. I decided to check the second floor, and found the stairs. I passed by some windows, peered into the tinted windows with my main flashlight, and recognized that room as a kitchen. I saw a shadow quickly pass by inside, but I couldn't be sure. When I pointed my flashlight to where I thought I had seen the movement, nothing seemed to be there. I figured I was probably seeing things. I walked past the outside of the kitchen and found the stairs to the second level. I pointed my AR up the stairs along with my gaze and didn't see anything. I walked up the stairs as quietly as I could. As soon as I got eye level, I swept everywhere I could see. There was a way to walk around the outside of the ship, but this level was nearly all indoor facilities. I completed my climb up the stairs and then looked as far in each direction down the walkway as I could, and then up for threats, pointing my AR as I looked. Then I looked into the luxury yacht and listened. I was on the second level now, and all these windows were deeply tinted. Chapter 6. Still trying to find a way in. Second floor outside, day 1. I could more so see the reflection of the sun, an hour or so away from setting as I could inside at all. I did my best, though, to look inside, and it looked to be a dining room or entertainment room of some sort. Having my sunglasses on, from it being a bright summer day, the sun reflected back at me and didn't bother me, but it didn't help me look inside any easier either. It would be time-consuming to press my face and flashlight against every window and room to see inside. My flashlight couldn't push in very far anyway, only enough to see some furniture, then shadows.